Hello, my name is Rick Stack. Welcome to my channel. Today I thought we would talk about some music theory. We're going to start really simple and build in future lessons. So we're going to talk about triads today, which also has to do with intervals. And so we're going to take it out of a G major scale for today. Later on it could be any major scale. If you don't know a G major scale already, I will show you one octave right now. So we can go down here, 3rd fret on the 6th string, go to the 5th fret on the 6th string, go to 2, 3, 5 on the A string, and then do 2, 4, 5 on the D string. So the whole thing would be so, and of course, major scales you can play, different places. It's just a G major scale, 7-note scale. 7 different notes. When people refer to this, if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it's important to note that the 8th note is the octave. It's just another G note. So you started with G, ended with G. It's kind of a bookends thing, just sounds better. If you go like this, it's kind of like that. So the idea with triads is you're going to take the 1st note, the 3rd note, and the 5th note of the scale, and that's a triad. So let's break it down a little more. You take the 1st note, which is a G, 3rd fret on the low E. You're going to skip the 2nd note here, which was an A. Now you're going to go to the 2nd fret on the A string. That's the 3rd note of the scale. That's a B note. So it's the 1st note of the scale and the 3rd note of the scale. It's that simple. So 1, skip 2, 3. Then we're going to skip the 4th note of the scale, which is actually the 3rd fret of the A string, the C note here. Don't play that. Whatever you do, don't play that. And so you're going to go to the 5th fret on the A string. That's a D note. That's the 5. So in interval terms, 1, 3, 5. And it's kind of that simple, actually. You're literally just taking, keep in mind this is for any instrument, on a piano, saxophone, anything, what is it, glockenspiel, marimba. You're taking out of a major scale, you're taking the 1st, 3rd, and 5th notes, and that is a major triad. How would you use this? Well, there's a bunch of things, a lot of things you can use it for. But right now, it's just think of it as an arpeggio. You've probably heard the term arpeggio before. You can have a simple 3-note arpeggio like this, done in octaves. You can also do major 7 arpeggio and other arpeggios later. There I added in a 4th note, that's why it sounded different. Also, chords are constructed from intervals. These are intervals, so when you say, what's the 3rd note of a major scale? Well, it's the interval of a 3rd. The reference point is this kind of home bass here, this 3 here, 3rd fret, which is a G. You're referring to that, I should say you're referring to the 3rd note of the scale is the 3rd away from the root note. That's important, because if you change like the home bass or the root note, everything would change. So yeah, you got 1, 3, 5. That's the arpeggio, also known as a triad. So hopefully that makes sense. You can kind of digest that if you haven't ever done this before. You can also play these in multiple places on the guitar. You can do it here. One of the things about guitar that can be really confusing to people, especially this kind of stuff, is that if I go G, B, well, I can also go G, B, and that's a different visual pattern, but it's actually the same theory exactly. You're still going to the 3rd note of a major scale. Like if I did this major scale, you have 1, 2, 3, still the 3rd note of a major scale. It doesn't matter if you go here to here or go to here to here. So guitar is funny that way. We have these 2 notes are the exact same note. Like you can't do that on a piano. we have these. It's not an octave higher, it's the exact same note. The tone is a little different, you probably noticed that, like a fretted note here in the lower string sounds a little fuller, not as sharp sounding as here, a little different. So, but yeah, so you can do G major triads all over the neck. So don't worry about that for now. I think that's where people sometimes get confused. It's more important to know it as more of a holistic music theory thing. Like, what is a triad? It's just first, third, and fifth notes of a major scale. I've said that a number of times now, but it's important because people just get, trust me, people get confused about this kind of stuff. So now let's try changing it up a little bit and figure out what a minor triad is. Very simple. You just take the third note and you're going to flat it. So meaning if you go G, B, we're going to take this B, move down a half step. A half step, by the way, is one note higher or lower. So higher, that's a half step higher, that's a half step lower. In case you don't know this kind of stuff, a whole step, I should clarify that, is two notes or two frets away. So C to D, so I'm skipping a note there, C, skip this note, D, that's a whole step. And you could stay a step and a half, 2 steps, and so on. So back to the minor triad, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take this major third here, 1 and 3, and you're just gonna flat it to here. So now you have, if we keep everything else the same, you have 1, flat 3, 5. That's a minor triad. And that's it. You just take the third that you originally had and you flat it. So it's pretty cool because you can have a major triad here. Take the major third, make sure you know what that is. Flat it by a half step. Now you have a minor triad. Major, minor. As a little side note here, it's good, especially if you're in the beginning stage or even, I would say even intermediate, like try to recognize that sound. Like it sounds kind of obvious, but I found a lot of people don't. Guitar players can learn things on the fretboard. You see all these visual patterns, and sometimes we don't listen with our ears enough. So you want to, I think as early as possible, just hone in on the sound of, what is a major chord? What does it sound like? Kind of happy. Minor, kind of sad. Dominant 7. Funky, kind of cool, funky, kind of bright, twangy. You can use different words if you want, but that. So back to this, you want to hear the sound difference. That's a major triad, happy, minor, kind of sad. Now with the minor triad, let's look at this here. This is more of a playing perspective, not so much theory, but I'll just mention it now. If you're doing this, that's cool and can work a lot of times. Like if you're doing this kind of that's great. That works out just fine. But this is not super comfortable, at least for me. I know there's some master shredders on the planet that's probably just a piece of cake. But I probably won't do that, especially down the lower frets. Up here, I guess, yeah, no big deal. But down here, I would move this note just somewhere else, specifically. So I'm going from the 5th fret on the D string here to the 8th fret on the D string. And that's still a B flat note. So we took our minor triad that we had here, and remember we just got the minor triad from taking the major triad, right? We had the major triad, took the 3rd, which is this B note, flatted it. Now we're just moving it to a more comfortable location, at least potentially, if you like this idea. And you might do both too over time. That's important to note. So we're going G, B flat, D in this case. So that's just a little side note as far as playing. There's a ton of stuff we can do here with theory, intervals, arpeggios. You can get into chord construction here. You can go, oh, how would I form a chord with those 3 notes? But we'll get to that later. I think it's really important, in my opinion, to really absorb this first, because I've had a lot of students over the years, hundreds of students, hundreds and hundreds, thankfully, over 37 years of teaching. And I can explain something really clear, but some people it just clicks, some people it doesn't. That's totally fine. It can take a while. But you want to build on this with other ideas later. You want to start with this and really know this. So just review this video if you have to, and just really try to get down that idea that a major triad is the first, third, and fifth notes out of a major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One little thing here, sometimes I just think of things off the cuff here. If you're a rock player and you've seen in tab books G5, it's just the first note of a major scale and the fifth note of a major scale. So that might even kind of ring a bell as far as why that is now. That's called a G5. This would be an A5, F5, B5, C5, D5, E5. It's just power chords. The funny thing is, in the real world, you're not going to be in band rehearsal and say, hey, play a G5. Most likely. You'd probably just say play a G, or if you knew the context, you might say a G power chord to distinguish it from, G, G, G. But that's kind of cool. I think it's sometimes with my students, one little previous thing that they knew before will tie into the new thing I'm showing them. So that's why I think of a 5, G5, a lot of rockers have seen that before. So there you go, there's your fifth. So 1, 3, 5. So that will be it for the lesson on triads today. I hope you liked it, and if you get a chance, I would love it if you want to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. You can like, you can comment, and have a great week of practicing, and I will see you soon. Thanks.